Close that out. All right, we are now live. Let me go. Whoa. I always mess with these views. Okay. Okay. And this, waiting period when we get started is always the most awkward for me because I don't want to play music because then YouTube takes my videos down because I play like good music. But yeah, I'm one of the things we'll talk about is really how, if at all, this obviously the pandemic has affected your guys' work, which I'm also super interested to hear about. So yeah, lots of topics. We'll get into it in a few minutes. There we go. Just let some more folks trickle in. For those who are jumping in now, this is our conversation about how to level up your schools and systems. My name is Ian Cohen. I am the CEO of Tara Education Technologies, one of the hosts of the first ever ATL Education Expo. And I'm here today with David Hall from Hall Benefits Law, Katie Albert from Investor, I always mess this up, I'm sorry, Investor Assets Management, and Ariana Thomas from Flylight Creative. And we're going to be talking about how professional services like these are really important foundations of schools and education systems, both now and are going to be critical for the future of the profession and the space. So we're just going to wait another second or two to let some other folks trickle in, and then we'll dive in with each of them getting a chance to present for a few minutes about what their organization does and why their work is so critical. And then we'll dive into a larger discussion and kind of open up the floor to dive into some of these broader questions. If at any point in time you have a question, please feel free to submit them through the Q&A function, and I will make sure they get into the conversation. And if you are on social media, we are using hashtag ATL Expo, as you can see in my really amazing background that it took me a long time to make. That's the hand-drawn picture of Atlanta behind me, just for the record. It's not, if anybody uses Canva, it's really great. Yeah, it should be fun. And I'm excited to talk with these three folks. They're really, really some amazing people. So we're gonna give another minute and then we'll get started. Sorry, here. The last squeaky toy has been found and taken away. She always brings her. Okay. Okay, because I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about every issue I've ever thought about when it comes to these different services. Let's go ahead and dive in, and we're going to kick it off, giving the floor to Ariana Thomas from Flylight Creative to give us a quick presentation about her work and how she supports schools and systems.
Thank you so much, Ian. I'm going to share my screen with you. All right. Can you see me? You see it? Awesome.
Good.
Okay, well, it is a pleasure to be at the expo. We have been waiting for a while for this to come around. I'm so excited that Tara and Ian took the initiative to bring this to Atlanta. And I love that it's virtual, even though, we miss being in person, but I love that it's virtual because so many people beyond 285, right, can participate and be a part of this amazing experience that you've brought. And I really appreciate being a part of it. So thank you very much. So I'm here to talk about Flylight Creative. Flylight Creative Agency is a branding and marketing agency for education and nonprofit. And what we do is provide design, digital marketing, social media, and branding to education and nonprofit organizations. And what makes us really different and unique is that we stick to organizations that are impacting children and families. And so we really want to support social enterprises and innovations as well that are targeting or reaching out to and building relationships with audiences that are rooted in advancing access for their children and their families. And so what that can look like for us is helping you with your branding, outlining your message, identifying what is it that you really want to say, how can you say it clearly and concise in a concise manner, and how can you ensure that you are managing your reputation and your unique value add, right? Social media, of course, we all know what social media is. We love social media, most of us. Some of us have a love-hate relationship with social media, and that's typically where the love part comes from. And so social media, we do management, social media management, content creation, posting analytics, and monitoring as well, and all of the design that goes into that. So that could be your videos, your graphics, your content strategy, and your social media strategy, as well as your relationship management with constituents that are commenting on your social media pages and channels. And then for design, right? You can have great social media presence, but then where are you taking people? What does your lead generation look like? How are you getting people back to a landing page or a website that really allows them to learn more about you, build a level of brand loyalty to what it is that you offer, and connect to what your service is or your product is that you're providing to families and to children. And so we do web design, we design landing pages, and we help you with that lead generation, as well as digital marketing. Since the pandemic, and I know we'll get into this later, Ian, but since the pandemic has occurred, digital marketing has just like shot through the roof, right? Everyone is trying to buy ads, but just because you can follow the steps on Facebook or Instagram or Google to create an ad, that doesn't mean that it's giving you the ROI that you really could have if you're using a professional who knows how to work that software, how to target and identify your audiences, how to write copy for your ads that is going to boost engagement and have strong calls to action. So this is a little bit about our background, about me. Obviously, Ariana, the founder of Flylight Creative. And one of the things that makes us really different is everyone who is a marketer at Flylight Creative is also a former educator. And so we really know education because we have lived in the classroom. We have lived in the school building. We understand what families are looking for, what schools truly need, and how to service the classroom, the building, and the school community, because we are school community members first before we became school marketers. And as you can see here are a couple of our co-laborers that we just want to lift up towards the bottom of the screen, just to show you just a more well-rounded picture of the types of brands, cause brands, and schools that we support. So like I said, we do web design, and that can look a lot of different ways. It can be mobile responsive. We can come in and help you create a brand new website and landing page, or we can do a conversion where we build a site and transfer a lot of what you already have into your new site, so it's more seamless, it flows easily. I recently had a call, and the organization we were working with they were saying, we have to get a new website. It's way too complex for people to navigate, which is causing our audiences and our stakeholders to not know what to do when they get there, right? Does your audience know what to do when they get to your website and your landing page? Do they have, how many clicks does it take for them to get from the home page to the end of your marketing funnel, right? How many clicks does it take? And if it's taking 8, 9, 10 clicks, you're losing people. And so we're going to help you make this process a lot more seamless to easily display your fundraising campaigns for organizations that are state funded and their websites need to fall within state compliance. We do that work for you. You don't have to worry about if you're a charter school, is the SCSC going to have all the information that they need when they come looking on our website and getting dinged, because you will get dinged for that. we do that for you. We'll let you know what you need to have up there, and we'll put it all up there for you. This is a website that works for you. It's automation and helps with your branding and storytelling. And we shoot a lot of those videos for our clients too. Here are just a couple of additional sites that you can see. So we've talked about social media, content creation, profile optimization, clean, seamless, compelling message right from the beginning. And with digital marketing, here in the red circles, you can see in this white paper that we did, you have, this is what the reach is looking like with no digital marketing, right? And then you pull some digital marketing in, these are paid ads, and you see what the growth can be. And what we can do a lot of times is get you a larger return on investment for a much lower cost than what you're spending. And we just like to also highlight some of the wins that we've had over the last year, because with this pandemic, it always feels good to be able to celebrate something, right? And so one of our clients, Atlanta Unbound Academy, we did a 24-hour campaign, and it was completely a social media blitz campaign, social only. And we were able to raise $27,000 within 24 hours. So imagine what your organization could benefit from if you did 2 and 3 of those a quarter or a year, with the help of Flylight Creative to boost your brand awareness and also get those organizational goals and not for those fundraising goals. And so we're just here to help schools who are trying to figure out how to look different in this new age that we're in. And so every school is thinking about how to get more families and how to pull in a stronger talent base. And so we're here to support you in that effort. And you can find us at flylightcreative.com. And we offer free consultations. So just schedule a time that's convenient to you, and we'll take it from there. Thank you so much, Ian.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congrats on those accomplishments. That is not easy to do. Now I'm going to give the floor over to Katie Oliver and Investors Asset Management.
All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning, or I guess it's afternoon now, almost. First, Ian, thank you so much for putting this conference together. Again, it's been awesome to be able to watch the landscape of these educational services really come together. And I've been really reflecting this week on how much power there is in all of this. David and Ariana, it's great to sit on this panel with you. And Ariana, I saw the campaign that you were just talking about, and now it's such a treat to get to meet the brains behind that amazing campaign that raised $27,000. So my name is Katie Oliver. I'm currently a vice president at Investors Asset Management here in Georgia. We're an investment advisory firm. Before this, though, was a former 5th through 8th grade science teacher in traditional public schools, as well as charter schools here in Atlanta. So that's me in my classroom. I like to joke and say that that's about 15 pounds and a few gray hairs ago. But this was me in my classroom back at Kipway's Academy in 2006. With 2 of my students, we are doing a seismograph lab right there, learning about earthquakes, because that was the year I taught earth science exclusively. So that was a lot of fun. But here's what I noticed. So I actually came from a background before I started teaching of financial services. So grew up knowing that industry, how it worked, the ins and outs of all of it. And then when I started teaching, I realized how busy educators were. So from the minute you walked in to orientation, you are drinking out of a fire hose, and you have so many things on your plate, so many decisions to make, all while trying to put your students, your families, and the community at the front and center of your work. So I noticed that as a teacher, and then when I became an administrator for the last 10 years with KIPP Metro Atlanta Schools, I noticed how many things administrators had on their plates. And so both of these things were really putting kids at the forefront of what we were doing. But that means that sometimes other things slip to the back of our brains. So for me, I know that looked like sometimes there would be seasons where I wasn't working out or drinking enough water or saving for retirement. So these things just tend to fall down the list of our priorities, and they get to be put on the back burner. So my mission in all of this, when I came back to the financial services industry, was to figure out a way that school districts, charter schools, and teachers could easily save for retirement so that they could then focus on what's most important, which is their students and their families and their communities. So here's what I noticed specifically. Like I said before, there are busy teachers and staff. The moment that particularly comes to my mind is when you walk into orientation that first day, either at a new school or you're coming back from the summer and you are bombarded with 1,000,001 things to do. And all you really want to do is get in your classroom and start setting it up so that you are ready for the open house or the orientation or whatever it might be, your students on the first day of school. Same thing with administrators. You have 1,000,001 things on your plate. This might be one of the last things that you are thinking about. So here's what we did. I was like, let's solve this. So for teachers and staff, specifically, here's what we do. Imagine walking into orientation now. And what we do is we offer a comprehensive 403B plan that walks alongside your retirement plan for the state. So first thing we do is we give you a briefing on how TRS, or the Teachers Retirement System of Georgia, works, and then some tools to help you understand how much you need to save to supplement what you might or might not get from this retirement system when you go to retire. We supplement that again with some tools. So imagine that you take a 2-minute quiz and you get to identify which investments are best for you. I like to joke and say, my friends always call me when they get new jobs, and this could be education or not education. And they say, Katie, I have a 401k or 403B. I've signed up, but I have no idea what to put my money in. Can you come over for dinner and help? So I love doing that. And I thought, why don't we just solve that from the beginning? So you take a quick quiz, you figure out which investments are best for you. And then before you walk out the door, we have given you step-by-step active enrollment so that you can get into the plan, enrolled, and saving in less than 30 to 45 minutes. So by that time, you are back in your classroom, knowing that you've checked this box, at least for the year, and are ready to start focusing on your kids and your families. For administrators, this one's a little bit more tricky. So there's a little bit of history with the way 403Bs are offered to K-12 systems. And I can go on about this for a long time. So I'm glad Ian gave me a 5-minute cap on this. So I'll make this short and sweet, but more than happy to answer any other questions later. So traditionally, the K-12 system was offered these things called annuities, and annuities can be and were historically for teachers very high cost, and they have high fees. And this was just the way that it was. It dates way back to the 1950s when these started to be offered. So back then they were the best thing that you could have, and they were the only thing that you can have. But within the past 10 years, there have been other systems that have opened up to be able to support K-12 educators. And now it can look much more like the private sector. But what we've seen is that, again, if a school has a plan in place, then they're not really going to go back and evaluate again and see what other options are out there, because there's so many things on your plate. We get it. So what we've done, though, is basically take this model that was for the private sector and bring it over to the public sector, so that when schools are ready, we can transition them into this new model that's more investment options, lower cost for their participant, which ultimately can result in hundreds of thousands of dollars more in their teachers' pockets every over the course of their lifetime. So that's been the big thing for administrators. The other thing that we hear a lot of is some districts have, especially bigger districts, have these multiple vendor solutions. That can end up being much higher cost for your participants and a big headache for your HR department, because they have to interface with a lot of different people at times. So we come in and can clean that up and make it really simple administration. And then the very last part of this was, for some New Start charters or other schools that are, in their early founding years, might not have a plan in place at all. So we have an off-the-shelf option that we can get in your school within 2 weeks with a very minimal lift from your staff. So if you're New Start charter, you don't have anything up and running, or within your first few years and it's been on your to-do list, this would be perfect for that option for you. So overall, we saw, like, from the experience I had in the classroom, we saw the problems facing teachers, and then we also saw the challenges facing the administration. We hope that this plan is specifically designed to meet all of those challenges so that more teachers can reach that vision of living their best life in their retirement dreams. Most of the time when we ask, there's pictures of like vacations with, you know, palm trees, or spending more time with family, or taking up a new hobby. And so we really want teachers to have that vision as they go back into the school year, or into their classrooms for the school year.
Awesome. Thank you, Katie, so much. Appreciate that. Now I'm going to pass it off to David from Hall Benefits Law for our last presentation before we open up for discussion.
Thanks so much, Ian. I'm so excited to be a part of this. Katie, what you're doing for educators is amazing and unique and thoughtful. And Ariana, you're speaking my language. Guys, it's not for the faint of heart to get people to your website or to share content. So trust a professional and give Ariana a call, because that's what I do for our firm. Let me share you a little bit of information about Hall Benefits Law. Here we go. Give me just a moment. Thank you for your patience. Okay. So we are and by the way, just a little bit of personal background. My name is David Hall. I grew up just outside the perimeter in Doraville. Graduated from Wake Forest University in 1999. I'm a fellow alum with Katie. And I got started on my career as a teacher. And I was teaching in a small special education school that features exclusively remediation of dyslexia. So very niche, very strategic, and you know what? I was a part of one of those retirement plans that Katie was talking about. And you know, I'm glad that I started putting money away when I did, but I wish I had not been in the program that I was in. I wish that we had had something different. Because quite frankly, fees ate up a lot of the, you know, there's a lot of opportunity cost there that I experienced. And, you know, I would be farther ahead in my own retirement planning had I had some other vehicles available to me at that time. So what Katie is doing, I can't reiterate enough, is so important. As an educator, I was in the 5th through 8th grade classroom over about 9 years. Ran an after-school program, was a director of that program for 2 years, and also worked in a number of summer programs. It has been a long time since I've been in the classroom. I've now sold to schools as a vendor, selling school furniture, learning environments. And now my wife and I run a law firm. We're a boutique ERISA and employment law firm. We've got 2 little girls. You might hear one of them in the background. It's our 4-year-old's 4-year birthday today, and so they're a little rowdy. So I apologize for any background noise. But what we do is we help people who are using services like Katie's and who have benefit plans for their employees. So there's a law called ERISA that governs a number of plans out there. It does not govern all the plans out there. But if you have a health and welfare plan for your employees, so health insurance, if you have a retirement plan for your employees, if you are looking for ways to attract and retain really good executive level positions in your schools, you may want to consider executive compensation programs that strategically attract and retain through compensation models. We also are adept in managing compliance with health and welfare reform, the ACA, and then of course retirement plans. Our attorneys are specialists also in employment law. So when your school or your system has issues with just day-to-day HR compliance or employment issues, anything from COVID-19 risk management to independent contractor, we can help you with that. So this slide simply tells you who we are. I would like to read you our mission statement because I think it's so important. The idea is that we want you to not have to worry about these things and to focus on what's the most important, which is educating students. So we are a boutique firm. We're in about 30 states now. We've just landed a couple of Alaska and Hawaii clients, as well as a Minnesota client. So we're excited about expanding our footprint. But we live, work, and play in Georgia. And my wife and I are committed to finding more people to help. And so that's why we're here. Our mission is to stand at the forefront of these two areas of law by providing the highest quality guidance and responsiveness in the country. And our proactive approach, I want to echo Ariana's use of the word proactive. It's so important to get out ahead of things, to be on the bleeding edge of new ideas and concepts, and to put things in action in your schools. We want to provide a proactive and holistic approach, and with our services being complementary to one another, our ERISA services and our employment law services, to address all compliance liabilities in those areas so that you can go back to work and educate students and take care of your educators if you're an administrator. Let me advance here. I just want you guys to know that you can reach me. This is my email address. You can call me at the number at the bottom of the screen. And I would highly encourage you to just check out our website, see who we are and what we're about. And if you'd like to have a conversation with myself or one of our attorneys, there's no cost to do that. We're committed, again, to helping as many people as we can. And for educators, I have a special place in my heart as a former educator for educators and for administrators. And I'm more than happy to be a connector. Even if you don't use our services, to provide introductions to people like Katie and to Ariana is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than what I can bring to the table. So again, Ian, thank you for having me here today. I felt a little bit like the odd man out until Ariana started talking about what she does. And as the chief marketing officer of our firm, again, the idea is to get the word out, to let you know who we are so that we can help you. So I'm going to stop my share here, Ian, and I'm looking forward to this next section.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you, David. And it sounds like, I'm also sort of our chief marketing officer in many ways too. So we might all walk away from this all calling Ariana up just to help us out, because it is an art unto itself. And I think, as we all know, the pandemic has really thrust the digital marketing services and importance of that, as Ariana mentioned, to the forefront of our minds. So I guess we're all walking away with one takeaway so far. It's that Ariana does great work and we all might need her help. So I want to open up a conversation by first really talking about the teacher shortage. We could talk about the pandemic, and I think there's a lot that each of you could probably talk about how it's affected your work. But I think the long-term issue that we're looking at, and we're already facing in education, is this increasing teacher shortage. I think it's now 48 states report a teacher shortage, especially in special education. And you have older teachers retiring at higher rates, younger teachers not sticking around past 5 years. And so I'd love to get each of your perspective about how your specific services related to a school and a system really relate to that, and why it's going to be an important component of teacher recruitment and teacher retention in the years ahead, because we know we're going to need to find more teachers and keep them around longer. And I think each of you have an important service and part of that. So Ariana, I'll let you kick it off, and we'll go back in order, and then we'll open up to the follow-up questions.
Yes, the teacher shortage. And so where we are right now in this school calendar year is recruitment season, right? So we're in enrollment season for families and students, and we are in recruitment season for teachers. And depending on where you are in the country, that changes your school calendar, which changes your recruitment season, but for teachers. But right now, it's everyone's recruitment season. So when I think about the ways that marketing is impactful for recruiting teachers, it's all about being able to tell your story. One thing that we have seen with the pandemic that I think it's really important for administrators to consider is that what the pandemic has shown educators is that you have a choice as to whether or not you want to be an in-classroom teacher or a virtual classroom teacher. There are some charter schools that are hiring virtual classroom teachers who don't even live in their state, okay? And that's not just Georgia. We work with charter schools across the country who are allowed to hire talent, virtual talent that can work remotely and not have to be within the state. So the competition is broad, right? And so you have to think about what exactly am I trying to hire for? and what does the role look like in regards to how does the day-to-day actually look like for that role. And it's great to just be honest on the front end, right? If you know that this role is going to be in person, let's just decide and let's target teachers who want to teach in person. And there is a divide, and even within the talent base, about whether or not they want to be an in-person teacher, or they're flexible. They could go either way. Or some teachers who are like, I have learned that I'm great at this virtual thing and I want to stay virtual, and let's target them for your virtual roles, right? And so I think that that's a really important thing to think about for for administrators as they're thinking about how they're pitching their roles. And then also how you write your job description is just as much as marketing copy as how you would write your digital ad copy, right? Like, the job description is no longer just a list of responsibilities and requirements. They want to know about your school. They want to hear the tone of your brand come through in that job description as you're talking to them about why your school should be the school that they choose. And then also, as we're in this this current season of hiring, it's important to also think about creative benefits. As a school, you may not be able to offer to competitive benefits to, you know, the corporate world, right? But how creative can you get? All of those community partners that you have that want to pour into your school and your school community, your students aren't the only ones who should be benefiting from that. How can you leverage those community partners so that your teachers can benefit as well? Is there a network of restaurants in your area that can offer your teachers a discount every time they purchase their lunch from there, right? You have to get really creative. Is there a gym that wants to provide support to your physical education program? Well, can they give you gym benefits for your teachers and your staff? You have to start getting really creative about what it is that you're offering, and that is what's going to help you attract more talent.
Yeah, those are great points. And for those just jumping in, we're talking about how these different services that each of our panelists provide really are super important, and are only going to become increasingly more important as the teacher shortage and the competition for teachers increases, especially as a result of the pandemic. And Ariana was just mentioning how some teachers are going to want to just stay virtual after this, and how that can be a big selling point for somebody. So I'm going to kick it over to Katie and hear her thoughts about how her services really take into account this competition, this shortage, and can help schools sort of make a competitive advantage for themselves when trying to recruit and retain teachers.
Right, that's a great question. And we are definitely at a very unique and crucial time for schools across the country right now. So just appreciate this question. Ariana, I'm going to build on what you're saying with the branding. I think actually a comprehensive benefits package obviously is sort of expected now at schools, but I think there could be an opportunity to brand specifically the 403B for your school in a way that could attract more teacher talent. So again, it's all about how you frame it. I think typically what I see as a 403B is just kind of a checkbox that gets checked off. But imagine when I've stood in front of the most powerful school leaders that we work with, and I didn't mention this earlier, but we're currently in 4 charters with a 5th coming online this summer already, and then 2 major districts here in Georgia. The school leaders that I see stand up in front of their teachers and they say something like, here's how much we care about you. We know that financial stress can be something that weighs on you a lot. We don't want that to be the case. We want to make sure that you are educated and informed about the system of TRS, as well as on a path to be able to know how much to save to get to retirement. And because of that, here's what we have brought in, and we are going to make this quick, seamless, and easy for you to enroll so that then you can get back in the classroom and focus on your kids, not have this take up any more brain space anymore. So that's one sort of like low lift thing that I see. The bigger ones, we have worked with some major districts here in Georgia that have tied this to a very comprehensive strategic plan. So maybe they did strategic planning over the course of a year or 18 months, and they've come out with wanting to have this be part of their priorities. One district in particular was in one of those multi-vendor situations, but their enrollment overall was only like 25 or 30% when they had all these multiple vendors. And that's because, again, educators don't have time to sit down, wade through all these options, figure out the fees, figure out the investments, And so typically they just go with whoever's sitting in the break room with donuts, right? And so what they said is, let's get rid of the noise. Let's offer one system that has multiple options of investments within the system. And again, the 30 to 45-minute enrollment. And there we have seen over the past few years, them increase up to about 80% enrollment right now. So again, that tied back to some strategic planning that they did. And we made sure that, it was branded as their plan. Like, this is not Katie and Investors Asset Management coming in, but this is something that is your district and branded to you. So those are, when I was thinking about that question, those are sort of like the lower lift and then the heavier lift that this could be a support for.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I feel bad now because I didn't even get donuts when I signed up for mine, but I was like the one teacher in the auditorium who decided to talk with the Lincoln Financial person, whoever it was. I was like 22, honestly, and I didn't really know.
You don't know.
What to do. It sounded like it made sense. I was like, okay. And now I just have this money sitting somewhere. It's not necessarily doing it in the most aggressive way. But if you take it out, there's a huge penalty. So now it's just there. And I think I'm just going to get an email about it once a year. But that's a really important point. And I think to your point, Katie, it's not only the teachers who have so little time to really talk about these things or think about them, it's also the administrators. And I myself have been on the board of a new charter school that's come into being, and getting all these different operational things together is really challenging, but it's also so critical because they can be the thing that gets in the way, prevents you from even renewing your charter or sticking around as a school leader. So David, I want to kick it over to you to chime into this question about how your services really are important to the future of teacher retention and recruitment, and really just, school stability.
And I love Eric's approach, creative solutions. She mentioned a focus on the school's vision through its marketing and presenting a good picture of what you're all about. And at Hall Benefits Law, we have focused the last 12 to 18 months on crystallizing our mission, vision, and values, and it has informed our hiring process. And hiring for a law firm isn't that much different than hiring teachers. There are not enough lawyers to go around, especially in a niche area like ERISA and employment law. So, and to Katie's point, she mentioned a comprehensive benefits package. That's something that we help schools with. We're not always coming in and fixing something that's broken. We're often coming in and helping to design a comprehensive benefits package. So, from my perspective, I think what I would say is that while we can't, as educators, count on the same level of funding as corporate America, and I saw in the comments in the chat that it's unfortunate that corporate America has grasped some of these concepts and is using them to attract talent, but the education system remains behind. The structures that our team builds for corporations and for family-owned businesses and our other clients can be applied anywhere. And so when I think about attracting talent, I think about long-term incentives. So, you may have a retirement plan. You can set vesting schedules for that plan. Katie can talk to folks about that. A vesting schedule simply means we're going to allow you to put X amount of money in your retirement plan yourself. We're going to match you at some portion up to dollar for dollar to a certain amount or some percentage of an amount. But you as the teacher or you as the employee will not be able to access those matched dollars in full until you've achieved X number of years of service. So these are some mechanisms that we can build into plans. The other thing that I would suggest is that we shouldn't just be thinking about retirement plans. We need to be thinking about executive compensation. We need to be thinking about what type of healthcare plans are we giving our teachers. So there are options out there. You just have to, again, be connected to the service provider. And so, again, I see myself as more of a connector than a provider for schools. That being said, we have worked with independent schools and we have worked with educators in the past to build these comprehensive benefits packages. And so if you want to talk through some ideas around that, that's certainly something that someone like Katie or myself could help you with. So yeah, this idea of a comprehensive benefits package, I think, is where I would want to go with this answer, and leaning on a trusted advisor that is not commissions based, but is rather being provided a fee for services as you go, that can help you think through some of these critical issues as you plan to hire and hire better and hire more, and then keep those people.
Yeah, great point. And we had a question in the Q&A, which I'm going to kind of mold to where we're at in the conversation. Because I think we've all hit on this idea that teachers, school leaders, district leaders are always under pressure from a lot of different areas and have a very limited time constraints. And a lot of the issues we're talking about, whether it's long-term benefits, marketing, or just general legal issues around employment, are not top of mind. They're rarely top of mind. And so when you go to partner with a school or a district, I'm curious how you get them comfortable to even start that conversation. Where do you begin? And how do you make it easy for them to really engage with this while also not monopolizing the limited time they already have? Because for most folks, these different things are probably last behind instruction, right? Behind the kids, because those things set fires every day and you got to put those out. So what's the beginning of those relationships look like? And how do you make it really simple for a school or a district to begin engaging with you and working with you around your work? And again, I'll kick it over to Ariana and we can continue in this order if that's the easiest.
Yeah, so thanks, Ian. One of the things that I think it's important to consider is when you're thinking about your strategic plan. I'll speak specifically about how we support via marketing. Once you have decided what your organizational goals are, it's a great time to bring in a marketing team or a strategist that can help you think about, okay, if these are the goals that we need to reach within our 3 to 5 year plan, does it look like to build a marketing budget that is going to help us reach those goals? Oftentimes, and there was another question earlier in the chat in the Q&A about not focusing on marketing and branding. But oftentimes what will happen is schools and organizations will create their strategic plan and they'll build their budget around that. And then they think about, okay, now here are the funds we have left for marketing, not realizing that if you actually think about your marketing budget as a part of your strategic plan and your overall budget, you can actually advance to those goals faster, right? So the way that lead generation works, for instance, is you're paying per lead that comes to you, right? And so, and I often like to position this to schools specifically, is that when you're receiving those QBE funds per student that's coming in, you want to think about what percentage of your QBE are you willing to spend per student that you need to recruit, right? Because that is what's going to help you build a really strong marketing budget. And that is something to consider as you're building your strategic plan and building your budget around that strategic plan. Your best bet is to bring somebody for marketing in after you've identified your organizational goals as you're charting out what your strategy and your tactics are, and go from there, rather than someone on the back end that has to come up with creative and low cost options, marketing options and strategy in response to what you've already built.
Right. I mean, you get what you pay for, right? I think so many folks, whether you're a nonprofit or a school or a district, we've seen them, and I've been a part of the groups myself too, where we put months into a strategic plan and then we're not able to actually get the word out to anybody about it because we don't have any resources or expertise in that area. Katie, I'd love to hear your thoughts about, how do you get folks to initiate these conversations with you and get started off right in a way that's easy for them, but also super effective?
Yeah, I think that's an easy to answer question and a hard to answer question, just depending on the scenario. So we offer free, 15-minute conversations to anyone that's just interested in getting that off getting the conversation started. But really in that conversation, what I'm listening for is what they need. And so if they are saying, I am a startup charter, or I'm in my second year and I just need a plan in place and I've got all these other things, I say, great. We have this off the shelf solution ready for you to go. I have a one pager that I can email them. It shows them steps 1, 2, and 3, and then we can do the rest virtually. all the way up until enrollment. And then we've done enrollments both virtually. Before COVID, we were doing them in person, and now we can do it all virtually. So the first conversation, again, is just really to feel that out. If it's a larger conversation with a district that is trying to align to a strategic plan, that obviously is going to take a bit more time to figure out exactly what their needs are, really dig into the plan design to make sure that it's meeting their needs for that, and then aligning it with district rollout and communication. So that obviously would take a little bit longer, but if it's a priority of the organization, then we sort of follow their lead on how much time, energy, effort, and finances they'd like to, put into that.
Yeah, no, of course, that makes a lot of sense. David, what do you think?
Yeah, I'll piggyback on Katie's point about that initial investment in time. Everybody wants the quick and easy solution. Sometimes there are no quick and easy solutions. Sometimes there are. But when there aren't, I think that schools and systems need to recognize that if you're willing to put in a little bit of time up front, then it's going to make it more palatable for not only you, but the people who are benefiting from these benefits plans. So the educators themselves, the employees. So yes, it can be daunting, but please carve out time, budget time to really take these questions seriously, because they do impact people's lives. And so, I think Ian's original question had to do with, you have so much on your plate. How do we as education vendors come to you? How do we make it easier for you? We have to have a relationship, and one of the initial branding focuses for our firm was that we're relationship driven. So you need to be careful that you are working with someone who knows you, who has some sort of an avatar for their ideal client, and that you meet those criteria. Because if they are primarily working with investment bankers and they're trying to sell their services to educators, that's not a good fit, right? They don't know you. They don't know your employees' needs and desires. So just make sure that you start off on the right foot with a good relationship. Make sure you're comfortable in that initial conversation. And then don't be afraid to put a little bit of time. It doesn't take forever. But if you invest the time early in, then you're not going to spend time fixing things. And trust me, fixing things on the back end is much more time consuming and labor intensive than doing it right the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, one of the trends we're seeing in a lot of big districts is this further decentralization of budgetary discretion to the school leaders themselves. And I think that kind of coincides with this increasing competition for teachers and for students. And you see with charter schools all the time, getting their enrollment numbers up is important because that dictates the budget they then get invested in the instruction themselves. And so I'd love to take something you said, David. I'd love to hear who's the ideal partner, and do you have an ideal use case or big win that you could share with us? Like, this is when this really worked perfectly, and this is why it's important to invest in these types of services. Let's go in reverse order this time. David, we'll let you start, and then we'll go Katie and Ariana.
I was afraid you were going to say that. Okay, so we worked with an independent school down on the Gulf Coast of Florida several years ago, and they had major issues with their retirement plan. They were out of compliance, and so we were referred in, and so there was a decent fit there. The gentleman that was the head of school was who we were working with. And again, the idea is that we had to get buy-in from him. They were going to have to commit some resources to get this fixed. And so I don't know how well I'm answering your question, but that ideal, for us, again, we can apply the principles and the concepts of all the different types of plans that we work in to any type of a business. But it's important to us that we understand the sector that we're working in. So as a former educator, I think that gives us a unique, if not a conversation starter, at least some perspective, right? As having participated in these plans myself, and then being married to someone who is committed to helping as many people as she can through her law firm. Again, just making sure that we're on the same page. If we meet someone, I'm sure if Ariana meets someone, right, and they don't have the same level of passion and commitment to their school, that she does, it works both ways, right? So I think for us, Ian, it's finding people who are passionate about providing the benefits that are going to attract and retain employees. For Katie, it's about finding the administrators who are passionate about making sure that their employees can retire, again, with hundreds of thousands more dollars in their pockets than if they were just doing the strict rank and file type retirement program. So it's a mutual fit. So I like that you asked, what are we looking for, and not just what should educators be looking for. A little bit of a scattered answer, but I think I touched on a couple of decent points.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's fair.
Save my bacon.
Yeah. David, I think you answered it for me, so thank you for that. And I should also, I didn't say this earlier, but David has definitely helped us with a lot of the school plans that we've worked on. And so just much love and gratitude to him and his firm for everything that they've sort of set up for us in the background. So yeah, I think that's, I'm going to steal your answer and say our plan is perfect for any administrator who is looking to make a difference in their teachers' lives with their finances. And so that could be a startup charter all the way to a large district, but that's sort of been the theme out of all of the clients that we have gotten so far, is they're saying, we know this is important, and they're sort of the cheerleader for that. And we know it's important. We've done our research and we want to go with you so that we can get the best plan we can to our staff and our educators.
Fair enough. Maybe it wasn't the best question in the world, but I do think what each of you raised about having been educators and know the space well, and obviously it goes for Ariana too. I mean, that's so critical, because it's a very different experience, like knowing how to talk to teachers and work with them, even just to present to teachers, because you get really like 10 minutes of time to make some sort of pitch to them before it's like, all right, I gotta get back to the students that are outside my door. Ariana, I would love to, I know you shared a great win during your 5 minutes earlier, but if there is, an use case right now, you guys really do well with this type of client, especially at this time of year, I'd love to hear about that and how that fit works for you.
Absolutely. So we do really well with organizations that are in and around the education landscape, especially those who are working with Black and Brown communities, students, and families. And our services best serve organizations who are willing to partner with us for 12 plus months. Sometimes people look for marketing when they're in crisis. And while we can help with crisis communications, we want to see you to your long-term goals. And one of the things that we provide that separates us from a lot of other enrollment or school marketing agencies is training. We take on one internal staff member and train them up with base level skills to become a brand ambassador for your school, because we want to work ourselves out of a contract so that you can put the money back into the mission and not the marketing. And so therefore that takes some time. And so if you're looking, we really, really work well and see strong goals like some of the highlights we shared with schools and organizations that are willing to partner for about a year plus.
Gotcha. That makes a lot of sense. I think that's a theme that's coming out of this is, as schools are sort of their own operations, right? And they're becoming more and more on their own, and they have to do everything themselves. And the challenge becomes when they wait last minute to try to either respond to a crisis or meet a gap that they didn't fill before, or address a compliance issue that they were not aware of. When you have to do it in real time, that is usually the last time you'd want to do it. And so I think what I'm certainly taking away from this is for school leaders out there, for organization leaders, thinking ahead about this stuff and putting the time in now is the kind of investment that you want to make. And I also think that's a great place to leave it. I guess the last question to each of you is more broadly, we're in the midst of this pandemic, but hopefully we see the light at the end of the tunnel. And one of the focus areas of the expo is to get people to think ahead about education and where you think it should head by the year 2050. That's my pet question for this entire thing. So I'd love to get a sense for, from the lens that you look at it, where do you think the school system, public education really needs to head in the years to come, and has the pandemic kind of spurred that on? And I'll open up to anybody who wants to take on that enormous giant of a question first.
I'll kick it off. because I don't have a good answer. I just have my personal opinions, and
Please.
I know what those are. So that's an easy answer. I think we need to be by 2050. I would hope that in 30 years we would be educating children, black, brown, yellow, white, silver, that we'd be looking at more equal opportunity across the board. My biggest frustration as an educator was watching privileged children have access to remediation for their dyslexia, and knowing that there were so many children out there who couldn't afford that solution, and that there was no solution, there was no fix for those children. And as I think about 2050, it can't be done from within. There has to be someone stepping up to the plate at a national level and taking this problem on. And it's not just about children with dyslexia, it's about basic skills and giving teachers and students access to tools. And so I don't know the answer, but that's where my frustration lies. And that's where, as an educator, 10, 15 years ago, I was feeling some real personal friction with, am I in the right school? Because I'm serving privileged children and doing good, but there are children out there who need me more than these guys do, because they're going to have it handed to them regardless of whether they're remediated or not, right? So, and yes, we had scholarships, and yes, we had minority diversity inclusion programs and things of that nature, not to the level that we do today, but we had those, and they didn't help but just a tiny fraction of a percentage of the children that needed it. So I would hope that by 2050, there would be some more robust federal programs in place to give access and tools to both teachers and students.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Katie or Ariana, you want to take a swing at it?
All right, I'll jump in. 2050, Ian, you always bring these enormous questions to make us dream big. I've always loved that about working with you. 2050, one thing I would love to see at Flylight, we're all about, and to echo David, we're all about access, right? And marketing provides access because it is the first introduction and it spreads that brand awareness. I would love to see access. I would love to see school communities being able to control their narrative by being able to access the services across the board that allow them to tell their story, own their story, put their story out. I also would love to see school choice being just amplified across the country. And I'm talking about not just public, charter, private, I'm talking about co-op, I'm talking about homeschooling, I'm talking about all the different alternative ways that we're educating students and educating families on how to educate their children at home. So I would love to see that. And then also just a flood of investment and wraparound service and partnership from local communities, understanding that education is a cornerstone for the development of their local community, right? And the communities that they want to serve. And so I would love to see investment just flooding into education from all types of corporate and small business, medium, large scale companies into education. And yes, I also agree, David, that there's no one school that's right for each child. And it is important that families can spread all the options right across the table and decide what option is right for their child without having the barriers of access to those particular options for their kids. So that's my big dream, Ian, since we're going big in 2050.
Well
Awesome.
said.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Katie, you want to give us a final response here?
Those were great responses. I've been sitting here just mulling and my brain is spinning. Ian, that's a great question. And I feel like I'm back in grad school needing to do all the research. But the two themes, just to sort of maybe synthesize or build on what I think I was hearing. The first one is just continued innovation. So I don't even think I can dream about what 2050 would look like quite yet. It's sort of like the Jetsons, plus one, but because I think that there's so much innovation that we've seen happen in the past 12 months that I'm so excited to see what comes out of this. It has not been an easy 12 months and I would never want to do it again, or I would never want educators to have to do it again. But I do think it's changed our definition of schooling. So one theme is just innovation. And then the second theme is this continued theme of equity. And I think both of those work together in the sense that I do think we're going to see this movement away from the brick and mortar schoolhouse as we've traditionally thought of it, and more into virtual learning, again, co-ops, homeschooling, all these different models that have sort of started to flourish over the past year, I think can continue to help meet more kids where they are and provide them specific needs and services that are unique to them. And then to build, David, on your point, I think then it's the job of the districts, the states, and the federal level to start thinking about how we systematize some of these things that we've been saying and fund them. Because the one thing I've seen is that unless it's funded in education, then it's not going to get done. People used to say, why wasn't there a financial literacy class in schools? I'm like, because it's not funded and it's not tested. So that's why. That's just the reality of the system that we are in. And so I think we need to look at shifting that system to be able to meet more kids where they are.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I think as a theme to take away from this conversation, again, I want to thank Ariana Thomas from Flylight Creative, Katie Oliver from Investors Asset Management in Georgia, and David Hall from Hall of Benefits Law for taking part. The theme I'm taking away from this conversation, especially for school leaders, organization leaders, like you have to invest the time into the things like these to shore up your organization and make sure you're ready for not only achieving your goals today, but reaching the goals you have for your vision for tomorrow. So we appreciate everybody tuning into this. We'll be sharing this up on YouTube. I'm also going to briefly share we have the website set up. So if you go to the Leveling Up Schools and Systems page, you'll see the information of each folks if you're interested in their services. Of course, here we go. I was not supposed to do that. But I should not have shared my screen. So there we go. Thank you again. This has been another conversation for the ATL Education Expo. And we'll see you guys at 5 for the next conversation. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Ian.